Hi, my name is Dan Treichler, and first of all, I wanted to thank everybody for coming out this morning and braving the elements to come hear my talk. Today I would like to discuss mountains and how developing a love for the mountains can really have a positive impact on your life. Now before I start, I just want to paint a picture. Imagine this. It's cold, it's dark, you're tired, you've been walking uphill for what feels like forever. You walk around a corner, you look up and you see this picturesque scene with the fresh fallen snow on the pine trees, and you look up and you see the stars, and they're just brighter than you've ever seen before. Well, it turns out if you live in an area like this, the human eye can only see about 200 to 300 stars on a clear night because of light pollution from New York and Philadelphia. But if you go to a place like the mountains, away from the light pollution, the human eye can see as many as 2,500 stars. So the stars are visibly brighter. At this point, you're getting a little cold, so you continue on, back into the darkness. You're tired, you're hiking, you're going uphill. You're getting to the point where you feel like you might be beyond your comfort zone. But you walk over the crest of the hill, and you see this. You've just seen the sunrise from the top of Cascade Mountain in the Adirondack part of upstate New York. By this point, the sun's come out, it's warmed up, you're comfortable, you're enjoying looking around at the 360-degree panoramic view. And by the time you hike back down to your car, you're just elated with joy and the accomplishment of just having hiked the mountain. So at this point, I just want to ask the class a question to get a sense of how many of you have been to a mountain. So my question is, how many of you have been to a mountain within the last year to do anything? Show of hands. Anybody? A couple? When you went to that mountain, what did you do? Skiing, hiking, anything?
Yeah, I hiked and I skied.
Okay, great. Anybody else skiing in the last year or so? Okay, so you have a couple skiers. So my job today is to convince those of you that have been to the mountain to go more often, and those of you that have not, to give it a try, because I know you're going to love it. So today we'll talk about, first of all, I'll start off with some problems that I see in society, and then some ways that mountains can directly combat those problems. Then I'll give you a little bit of a case study on my life and how mountains have had a really positive impact. And then we'll talk about some tips on how you can enjoy the mountains. So first, why should you listen to me? Well, for starters, I'm an Eagle Scout, which means I've spent countless hours out in the mountains, in the wilderness, hiking, camping, and just generally being outside in the mountains. Next, I'm trying to become an active member of the Adirondack 46er Club, which means I'm trying to hike all the mountains in the Adirondacks that are over 4,000 feet. And at this point, I'm about 3/4 of the way through. And lastly, I'm an avid skier. So I've been skiing all over the Northeast, and I've been to many of the resorts out in the West Coast of the United States. So between these three things, I just have a lot of time and experience spent out in the mountains. So what are some of the problems that I see with today's society? We're moving into the age of technology. And as everybody knows, the age of technology brings with it a sort of a sedentary lifestyle. According to the Journal of Applied Physiology, Nutrition, and Metabolism, they define a sedentary lifestyle as taking less than 5,000 steps per day. And their statistic is that 36% of Americans take fewer than 5,000 steps per day. And to be quite frank, on a typical day, I'm probably guilty of that. I go to work, I sit at my computer all day doing work. When it's time to leave, I either have to go to class or study, and then on the weekends, I spend time catching up on the things that I wasn't able to do during the week. So I'm probably just as guilty as anybody of not taking those 5,000 steps. Well, this can lead to a lot of problems. The very obvious problem is obesity. Again, according to the International Journal of Obesity, they define obese as having greater than 30 kilograms per meter squared of body mass index. And their statistic is that 1 out of 3 Americans is over this limit, which means 1 out of 3 Americans is considered obese. This can lead to further problems, such as high levels of stress, general just tiredness, and then what's even worse is just a lack of motivation to make yourself even better. And what's even worse for me is that people lose their sense of adventure. With the age of technology, you don't need to go out and experience a mountain because you can just Google it and that mountain will be on your phone. Well, I'm here to tell you that doing it in person is so much better than anything you could possibly see on your phone. So what do mountains have to offer? First of all, they are a great workout, both cardio and anaerobic. Now, this class in particular is probably looking at me laughing. Like, how hard could it possibly be to go for a walk in the woods? I'm a marathon runner, I'm a weightlifter, I do CrossFit. Well, it's a lot harder than you might think. Now let me put some numbers into perspective. This is a picture of Mount Marcy, which is the tallest peak in New York State, and it stands at over 5,300 feet above sea level. In order to hike it, it requires you gain about 3,300 feet of vertical elevation because you're starting at about 2,000 feet. To put that into perspective, The Empire State Building is just over 1,400 feet tall. So that means in order to hike Mount Marcy, you'd have to climb the Empire State Building twice, and you still wouldn't be there. And you can't tell me that your heart wouldn't be pumping if you climbed the Empire State Building twice. Now to make it even worse, imagine doing the same thing with a 60-pound pack on your back. You can't tell me your legs wouldn't be hurting at the end of that day, hiking 14 miles round trip with 60 pounds on your back. Your legs will definitely be feeling it. One other great thing about mountains is they have a built-in variation factor. How many of you just sort of get bored with your daily routine in life? You go to work, you do the same thing. You go for the same run you always do. You go for the same lift that you always do, and there's no variation. Mountains have a built-in factor, which is actually really convenient and fun. Every 3 months, the season changes. And when you go to a new season, all of a sudden you get a new list of activities, new things that you can do. So I just want to walk through a couple examples. We'll start with summer. We've already talked a lot about hiking, but there's tons of other great things you can do in the mountains. You can go rock climbing, mountain biking, trail running, just to name a few. But by the time you get a little bit bored with those, the season changes. Now all of a sudden it's time to move into fall. Fall is the best time to go out, enjoy the mountains, and see the natural beauty of nature, and see the fall foliage. After a short fall season, the leaves fall off and the snow starts coming. This is, in my opinion, the best time to go out and enjoy the mountains. In the winter, you can go out and go ice climbing, snowshoeing, and as a few members of our class have done, you can go skiing and snowboarding. But then again, the season changes, the snow starts melting, and that brings us into spring. Spring's the best time to go out and enjoy the water. According to the United States Geological Survey, water flows can multiply by more than 10 to 20 times what they would be in a typical summer months, which means the river's gorged. So it's the best time to go out and enjoy the rivers. You can go out whitewater rafting and kayaking, and it's the best time of year to go out and do specific hikes to backcountry waterfalls because they're just amazing this time of year. So next I want to give you a little insight into my life and how mountains have made my life better. I was really active in the mountains as a child, but then I went to college and I started working for Johnson & Johnson, and between those two things, I developed that sedentary lifestyle of oftentimes taking fewer than 5,000 steps a day. But about 2.5 years ago, I went out for just a hike out of the blue, and from that point on, I was addicted. And since then, I've stood on over 50 different mountains, and it's just really been a positive impact on my life. A few positive examples were that I've gotten a lot stronger. My legs are probably about twice as strong as they were 3 years ago. I've also lost weight. I'm in just a more general, just better health. I've regained my thrill of adventure. Quite frankly, I can't wait to get back out there and do the next adventure, especially with this snow that we have this morning. I've also made new friends. I've met people who have similar interests to me and similar desires to go out and enjoy the mountains, and it's been great to have partners in crime. And what's even better is that I've rekindled friendships from my youth. So I've been able to make friends with childhood friends, and it's really been great. And lastly, I've tried new things. Over the last 2.5 years, I've gotten into backcountry skiing, I've gotten into snowshoeing, and as I talked about before, I've gotten into rock climbing. And it's really been great to try new things. So now let me give you a few tips on what you can do to enjoy the mountains. The biggest piece of advice that I can give you is that I can't actually tell you what to go out and do because I'm not familiar with what your interests are or what your, excuse me, I'm not familiar with your interests or your fitness level. But what I can tell you is that there's tons of resources online. You can go out and if you Google it, the internet will direct you to the best places to go. Similarly, I'm not familiar with, for our colleagues in France and China, there are great mountains out there, but I don't know anything about them, so I can't tell you where to go. But I can tell you if you do your research, you'll find some great places to go. Next, the biggest piece of advice I can tell you is just to go ahead and plan your trip. If you pick a weekend and put it on the calendar, there's a better chance you'll make it happen. It's so easy to just say, oh, I'll do it later, I'll make it happen. But if you pick a weekend, put it on the calendar, and go, you're going to do it. It could be as simple as just a little weekend trip to the Poconos to go skiing, or a longer weekend up in the Adirondacks, or maybe if you want to get really adventurous, you can do a trip out to Colorado or Europe to enjoy the real big mountains. So I started this talk with an image of Cascade Mountain, a sunrise picture. So I thought it was only fitting to conclude with a picture of a sunset. This was taken from the top of Algonquin Peak, which is also in the Adirondacks. So today we talked about some problems with society and some ways that mountains can directly combat those problems. Then we talked about a case study of my life, and then finally I gave you some tips on how to enjoy the mountains. So today I hope that I was able to convince you that developing a love for the mountains will really have a positive impact on your life. And I hope I was able to convince you to pick a weekend, put it on the calendar, and to make it happen. Because I know that if you spend some time out in the mountains, you'll be just as addicted to them as I am. And with that, I'd like to open it up to any questions.